Hey y'all, we're back at it again. This is Ray and Kim,
Hey,
and welcome back to our YouTube channel. One of the topics, some of the things we're going to talk about today aren't the prettiest topics, right? They're the
right.
things that are challenging in our urban environments. Some of the topics we're going to briefly get into, and we'll glance over and get into it more in depth later
Yeah.
on. But for me, some of the things
It
are
needs to be said.
the gun violence in urban environments,
Right.
particularly goes down in Orange. I'll give you an example real quick. A young man that I knew out of Montclair, which is another neighboring town, who was like one of the best athletes around, was just murdered in Orange 2 days ago. You
Wow.
follow what I'm saying? And the loss of life has become so synonymous with urban environments that it almost desensitizes us
Right.
to losing these
It
kings and
just becomes
queens.
something else that happened.
Right.
It's Tuesday.
Right, exactly
Basically,
right.
it's not really breaking news anymore.
Absolutely.
Another thing that is prevalent in a lot of urban environments is the drugs
Yes.
and how prevalent they are inside the schools. You have kids who are of school age, but they're also selling drugs.
Right.
They're trying to follow what they see on TV and in these music videos, and they're trying to see if they can get that shiny car, the flashy watch, all the nice jewelry. And what they don't see is the life after someone gets caught. They don't see
Absolutely.
the jail time. They don't see the prisons and what that does to someone emotionally and mentally.
You know, it's funny you say that because being an educator, I see it in school all the time, and I think the two-ish areas of it, yeah, there's an element that wants to be that kingpin drug dealer, but there's also an element of students that ingest it, that becomes part of their day. So I've seen a rapid rise in the amount of students who come to school high.
Wow.
So instead of eating Fruit Loops, they taking oxys and other things like that, and I think it becomes part of their day to the point where they don't even realize how dependent they are
Right.
on the drugs to function. The problem with it is, obviously, there's some obvious ones, but they don't even really get to interact and grow. Remember, high school time, elementary definitely, but high school time is where these kids' hormones are raging, their
Right.
bodies are changing, and now they're ingesting things that really aren't to their benefit, and it changes them.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen a kid.
And I mean, a lot of times it's their parents aren't around because their
Right.
parents are at work,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
you know what? Maybe their parents are also
that's right.
drug addicts.
That's right.
And that's where they're getting the drugs from.
Right.
But they're growing up and living in these environments, and that seems to be their norm. Those are just some of the negative things that happen in urban environments.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we really need to do something about it and make sure that we give these kids enough hope to let them know that does not have to be your life. That doesn't have to be your destiny.
There's alternatives.
You can change it.
There's
Absolutely.
alternatives.
There's
And
alternatives.
I think that's our job. It's incumbent upon us to show them different things. Because
Yeah.
we listen, we grew up in the same town, right? Drugs are drugs. They've been here forever, long before us. Yeah, there's some different types of stuff out here, but at the same time, it's still a choice you make to do it.
Yeah.
One other topic. So we talked about concentrating, looking at drugs and looking at guns.
I mean, one of the bigger things that did happen, and we can definitely get into this in more detail in another video later on down the road, but the teachers preying on the vulnerabilities of the young female students and, trying to date them and being inappropriate with them. I'll just put it that way. That's I'm sure that may have happened also in more suburban areas, but I think it's more prevalent in the urban areas because a lot of these kids come from single parent households, and these teachers know that they're vulnerable and that they spend a lot of time alone. So they prey on that, which is sad because you're supposed to be able to look to your teachers and other elders as guides and mentors and people to show you the right way to go and to help you plan your future. But, they're taking away the innocence of these kids.
So let me just add to that, because being in education, what I've seen in my 25 years is the fact that the best teachers don't teach, right? Because there's no money, right? The benefits are getting taken away. They're not paying enough salary to really a living wage, if you will, especially if you have a family. So what does that mean? That means they're hiring people that really aren't qualified. right? The vetting process is a lot easier. So you get people in the lives of these children who, one, aren't really the most educated to educate them.
And they're not in it for the right reasons.
They don't really have the values and the character that's needed to teach them about values and character.
Right.
So a lot of it stems from the root of why they're there, how they get there.
Right.
And then what we see now is just a manifestation of the inappropriateness of the hiring process because there's no one out there.
Right.
Right? The most important jobs out here don't have the most important people doing them.
I mean, a lot of these teachers are in it for the pension. They're not in it for the welfare and well-being of the kids. And that's what's sad. You know, they don't take it seriously enough to really make an impact. We had some great teachers growing up,
Absolutely.
but unfortunately we also had some teachers who were in cahoots with the kids selling drugs.
That's right.
You know, and that's just a reality of where we grew
I
up.
always talk about how some of my friends were so mature looking and looked like they were older than their age really were. And thank God that our teachers, particularly the female teachers, were so mature that they didn't take our advances. Because we were young.
Yeah.
And we didn't know any better, right? So you flirt, you do this.
No boys.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And you kind of learn things. But at the end of the day, thank God these teachers did not reciprocate with the same feelings. They kind of put us in our place and said that's inappropriate. And that's not how you do things.
Well, you know what? A lot of the male teachers didn't.
Right. No, I mean,
You know, they took advantage of the advances of these young girls who were just kind of looking for love in all the wrong places.
Absolutely. And they were developing as well.
Right. Luckily, I wasn't one of them.
Right.
But I know some who were.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because it really messes with you for the rest of your life.
Well, I've seen the change in the young man I actually had taught, and then I fell upon a situation with him as an adult, and I saw how he went from respecting teachers to all the female teachers becoming objects. They were no longer Mrs. Barrett, right? They Mrs. Brannon or Mrs. whoever. They were, oh, that lady with the dress on.
Right.
And I saw it because I worked in an environment where he was my student over years.
Right.
So I saw the change in it. And if it happened to him, how many more of these kids? So now, let's talk about how that impacts on society, right? You get out here and you're working and people don't really have a differentiation between adult, child.
Right.
Appropriateness, not.
And
because everybody is the same now.
Or authority, you know, an authority
Absolutely.
figure. You know, this young man may work at a company where his boss is female and he's looking at her like, how can I conquer this?
Right. Absolutely.
Which is sad.
So
it's
some
sad.
of these
it's
topics
just a repetitive cycle
that we talked about, we're going to get into more in depth later on.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But give them the spiel, Kim. What can they do? How can they get with us?
So you can help us by telling us your stories. You know, subscribe to our channel. Like our channel, leave a comment. Tell us what kind of experiences you've had in your neighborhoods growing up.
Absolutely.
We love to hear from you. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.